Thank you. And I'd like to thank Mr. Ferreira. It's impossible not to be moved by that video and to see so many young faces and realize the tremendous human potential that has been lost in a single fire incident. And I'd like to express my condolences to the members of the Victims Association and their families. They say history repeats itself, and there's no surprise that we heard about another dangerous nightclub fire, because we all know that nightclubs are dangerous places. They're crowded and dark, security concerns limit exits, and the use of alcohol can affect the judgment of the occupants. But what surprised us in the United States were the similarities between the KISS nightclub and the fire that had taken place at the Station nightclub 10 years earlier in West Warwick, Rhode Island. The similarities were amazing. Not only were they almost exactly 10 years apart, both fires were ignited by pyrotechnics from the band that was playing. In both fires, you had a rapid spread of the flames on exposed foam surfaces. In both fires, there were limited exit options for those trying to escape. In both fires, there were no fire sprinkler systems. We lost 100 people in the Station nightclub fire back in 2003. And as you see, this slide was prepared shortly after the KISS nightclub fire that showed only 233 dead. And we now find the number is 242. Why automatic fire sprinklers? Well, I think most people in this room realize they're known to be the best single feature of fire protection available, able to make up for a wide range of other fire protection deficiencies. In the Station nightclub fire, people were quick to point out that that exposed foam should not have been allowed to be in place. And that was true, but these things happen. We know that there are building deficiencies in many of our buildings, and it is the value of sprinklers that a properly operating fire sprinkler system can make up for all sorts of other problems and provide fire safety. I'm not going to spend much time on how fire sprinkler systems work. I think people in this room know how fire sprinkler systems work, and that there are a variety of ways in which they can be supplied with water. But it's important to point out that unlike smoke detection systems, unlike smoke control systems, other systems that react to a growing fire and alert people to a growing fire, fire sprinkler systems actually do something about it. They act to extinguish or control the fire, preventing the heat release rate from continuing to rise from a becoming larger and more deadly fire with time. So the question after the Station nightclub fire in the United States was, would fire sprinkler systems have saved lives? And some people were skeptical. They thought the exposed foam, since it wasn't really permitted anyway, would have allowed the fire to spread too fast ahead of the sprinklers. Now, at the Sprinkler Association, with the help of James Dollenbo from Tyco, who's here with us, we actually were able to take a look at some quick tests that he set up in his own laboratory, showing that, in fact, it looked like sprinklers might have been able to come on in time to stop that fire, even with the dangerous exposed foam. And what happened was that our National Institute of Standards and Technology actually had the wherewithal to conduct an investigation of the fire. And it was one of the best fires ever examined, because there was a camera crew in the Station nightclub fire at the time of the fire. They were filming a documentary on how nightclubs were crowded, because there had been a crowding incident in Chicago not long before that. So a video camera was rolling at the time the fire was ignited, and it was one of the most well-documented fires in history. NIST, as part of their investigation, rebuilt the stage area where the fire started, including an alcove that you see on the right side, in which a drummer would sit behind the band. And the alcove was lined with foam on the walls and ceiling. Neighbors had complained about the noise levels, and so foam was used extensively on the walls and in that alcove. Here is the test compartment that NIST built to simulate the actual conditions at the station nightclub. And they were able to conduct tests using sprinklers and not using sprinklers to see, first of all, if the fire without the sprinklers matched what they had recorded on the video cameras, and secondly, what difference the sprinklers would have made. So here is the non-sprinkler test that was conducted at NIST. You can see sprinklers on the ceiling near the drummer's alcove. The fire was ignited just as we saw it actually ignite in real time in the video. There's also a sprinkler in the ceiling of the drummer's alcove itself, as would be required under the application of the NFPA 13 rules. So this, let's see if we got the videos in the right order here, so hang on a second. This is without the sprinklers. So with the sprinklers, we would have had sprinkler actuation by this time. Now what you'll notice in this fire, as the fire spreads, at first people in the room thought it was part of the act, perhaps. But by the time they started to try to escape, realizing it was a dangerous situation, it was already too late. And notice how quickly the deadly gases start to descend from the ceiling. The level at which this toxic smoke descends is tremendously fast, such that you can see we're not even a minute and a half into the fire yet. And what you'll find when you look at the data is that between 60 and 90 seconds after ignition, you could die by any number of means, but that whole room was totally intact. So now we're going to look at what difference the sprinkler system made. Fire starts as before. Again, at this point in time, people are thinking this type of fire could be part of the act of the ban. But the difference here is that the first sprinkler acts within 30 seconds of ignition, quickly followed by the second sprinkler. Situation. We lost the urgency to evacuate that room, and it was the urgency that led to many of the deaths. People trying to cram through exits that weren't sized to accommodate the crowding. People left behind to die from heat and smoke. Quite a difference in fire scenarios. If you look at the actual data from the tests, I'll show you different sets of data. These are the temperatures. The green line shows the temperature at the ceiling with no sprinklers. The red line shows the temperature at eye level with no sprinklers. The blue line at the bottom shows the temperature at eye level with sprinklers. It hardly budges. The arrow to the right shows the approximate lethal limit for anyone in that room. You can see it takes less than 90 seconds for the lethal limit to be exceeded without sprinklers. Here's a view of carbon monoxide production. Here, the instantaneous limit of carbon monoxide at which it would incapacitate you and kill you is about 4%. As you can see, this is at eye level. The red line shows without sprinklers, you're there before 100 seconds. With sprinklers, again, the carbon monoxide line hardly budges during the course of the fire. If you put out the fire or stop it from growing, you stop the production of carbon monoxide and other toxic gases. And I went back and looked at the hydrogen cyanide data as well, because hydrogen cyanide was publicized as the big killer in the Kiss nightclub fire, and the hydrogen cyanide production curves look almost identical to these. Here's the available oxygen. Again, a lethal limit of approximately 12%. In that case, it's a minimum. We need at least 12% oxygen to exist, to be able to get out of that room on our own power. And as you can see, again, in less than 100 seconds, without sprinklers, you were using up almost all the oxygen in that room in less than 100 seconds. With sprinklers, the green line shows that the oxygen, available oxygen hardly drops at all. So this is a summary here of the time to untenability in 3 categories, using data limits set up by David Purser from the British Fire Research Station. And the first column is temperature limits. Second column is heat flux, actually being burned to death. The third column is available oxygen. And you can see, without sprinklers, in the experiment I just showed you and in some FDS modeling, fire dynamic simulated modeling I'll show you in a minute, the time to death without sprinklers from any one of these is basically between 60 and 90 seconds. Whereas with sprinklers, at the bottom, you never reach the untenable limits. You're always maintaining tenability. I mentioned the FDS. I'm having a hard time moving this now. There it is. I mentioned the FDS modeling. This is a tool available to fire protection engineers. Let's see if this will run by itself. I'll hit it again in case it's me that's holding it up. Can we give that a jog back there? It was interesting that modeling is still in its infancy, but it's becoming amazing what the modelers can do. It looks like I'm on the sprinkler. This one, we'll see what happens when we start running these. I don't know if these are going to run. We were having trouble loading them up before. So maybe we'll just move on. No? Keep going? Okay. The interesting thing about the FDS modeling, the fire dynamic simulation, is that when they first started applying the model, their model too showed that the fire would spread faster on the foam than they thought it would. Or it did spread fast in their model. When they did the experiment, it didn't spread quite as fast as they thought. So it was after the experimentation that they were able to go back and tweak the model and actually make it match the experimentation. What came from the NIST analysis? Well, you'll hear more about this from our final speaker in the panel. But notice bullet point number 2. The NIST recommendation was that code should require sprinkler systems for all new nightclubs and for existing nightclubs for more than 100 people. In terms of preventing future tragedies, a fire sprinkler system is a proven, simple technology that makes up for a wide range of other fire protection deficiencies, saving lives and property. And of course, codes are needed to require fire sprinkler systems in both new and existing nightclub occupancies. Now, in closing, I want to remind you of an old saying: those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And I think we have to remember the past, and hopefully we'll never have another tragedy like the KISS nightclub fire. And I want to, in closing, thank Marcelo Lima, because I know he has been working very hard over the past few years to make sure that the people of Brazil do not forget the past. He and the ISB have put a lot of effort into making sure that the KISS nightclub tragedy is on the minds of the people who can make changes in Brazil. Thank you.